Hey everyone, my name is Wedge. We're continuing our Pro Tour recap coverage today with a financial video. As many of you know, whenever a huge tournament of any kind takes place, the Magic economy feels pretty intensely. Pro Tour Eldritch Moon was no different. There has been a lot of movement price-wise. In this video, I'll show you the biggest movers and shakers, as well as some cards you should consider picking up sooner rather than later. We'll be using TCG player pricing and MTG stocks graphs for this video, just so you know. Hope you enjoy, and if you like financial videos like this, be sure to hit that like button. Helps out a lot. We'll begin with the biggest price jump of them all. The cat's out of the bag. Emrakul, the promised end, has skyrocketed in price, settling at around $30. Due to extensive play at the Pro Tour, Big Mom Eldrazi is back on players' good side. For all you who missed getting her at $13, ouch, but for those who didn't, now that's a huge return, over 100% increase. Insanity. When Liliana the Last Hope first came out, prices were around $20, but even then, many players were saying that she's overpriced, and she's pushed, and she's not that good. Liliana's price has gone up an additional $20 since the Pro Tour began. She's already going up in price steadily over time. Her inclusion in most every black deck certainly pushed her over the top. Sitting around $45 right now, I think it's safe to assume that no one thought she'd get this high. With the prevalence of Delirium variants, new zombie strategies, new control strategies, and more, I don't think you'll see a Liliana drop all that much for at least a little while. What a hype train. While the entire weekend was full of Emrakuls, Lilianas, and other huge win conditions, one mythic spell kept showing up in every deck running red: Kozilek's Return. After being pre-ordered around $25, Kozilek's Return dropped significantly, eventually settling around $6. This past weekend, that price is no more. Crossing the $10 threshold, Kozilek's Return is the premier removal spell for these Eldrazi Emerge decks. In some cases, it's the only removal. The entire strategy hinges on triggering it in the graveyard. While the price hasn't gone up that much yet, I think it's important to remember that this is a mythic rare from a small set that's basically an auto-include in these new Emerge variants. If you need this card, I wouldn't wait. You never know what can happen with mythics and their price points. Moving away from the mythic rarity for a moment, prized Amalgam is one of the better cards in the new zombie deck from the Pro Tour, and its price shows. While there was always talk of potential for the card, it never really shined until this past weekend. With this price around $1.50 for some time, the recent bump to $3 to $4 is significant. Another card that if you need it, I'd probably look for a few now, just in case. Elder Deep Fiend is another card that players thought had potential, so the price never really bottomed out. Despite that, it did jump significantly thanks to the Pro Tour. To get a copy of the Calamari now, you'll have to spend north of $5, a similar treatment to Selfless Spirit after Spirits became a thing. Follow the same path there. If Emerge is the deck you want to play, the Deep Fiend is a staple, and the price isn't too terrible considering its proven power. Moving back to Mythics, Flayer finally proved his worth at the Pro Tour, being included in numerous Delirium decks as a playset. That's all his card needed, was one solid finish, and it got it and much more. Flayer is the premier Delirium enabler. A week ago, he was around $8. Now, $12. If you thought the Flayer was going to keep dropping, looks like you missed out. As long as Delirium strategies continue to exist, I think you'll be hard-pressed to find this card on the cheap. The last super huge jump I want to talk about is Ishkana Graph Widow. Talk about hitting on all fronts: the legendary spiders and Delirium strategies, control variants, and the Emerge decks. What was once a $3 card is now comfortably over $10. If you need it for a commander, I'd consider waiting until the price drops, but it looks like you might be waiting for a little while. Ishkana would have to fall out of favor in multiple strategies for her price to really take a hit. Of course, with every huge fluctuation in standard pricing, there are cards that drop just like there are cards that rise. If we're talking about anchors, look no further than Gisela the Broken Blade. Despite her obviously pushed power, she hasn't seen any solid play. Here and there, sure, but nothing to justify the price tag. As you can see, she's dropping day by day. Failure to dominate the Pro Tour surely didn't help either. Right now, you can buy copies of the Tentacle Angel for $14. Huge downswing from her original price, and it looks like it's still dropping. Keep an eye on this one if you need copies. Another card that has been plummeting as of late is Chandra Flamecaller. After spiking at around $25 in late May, she's been on a steady decline despite heavy play in various strategies. The problem? Players are only running 1 or 2 copies, no longer 3 or 4 like they were in the spring. With the emergence of Band Company and various green-black Delirium strategies, I'm sure her price wasn't helped much there either. The Pro Tour did see a lot of Chandra, and we'll have to see what that means for her going forward, but it looks like all the Pro Tour did was stop her price drop at around $12. Not sure she'll fall below that. If you need copies, now may be the time. Now it's time to move to my favorite part of these videos. Let's talk about cards that are actually cheap and may be worth buying now before people either break them or realize just how good they are. Of course, I am no financial expert, so don't take whatever I say as gospel. I'm just giving you my thoughts based on what I know about Magic and the trends I've seen in the past. Do what I can. We'll begin with a card I know has been overlooked, Eldritch Evolution. This Pro Tour was standard. Eldritch Moon just entered the fray. All anyone is talking about is standard. No one's paying attention to Modern right now, but there's already been significant testing by multiple pros using Eldritch Evolution. Man, it seems like the real deal. At least real enough to be worth more than $6 a piece. Sure, $6 isn't nothing, but it certainly isn't as high as it could be based on the card's raw power. I'm not saying it's going to break Modern or warp the format or anything like that, but if you were thinking about building something utilizing Eldritch Evolution, I think you may have seen its floor. I don't think it's going to go any lower. There's always going to be potential power with a card like this, and that automatically raises the floor. I wouldn't wait any longer if you need them. I think I've been saying this for a while now, but in this exact moment, it's now 100% true. Arlene Court has hit her lowest price. She has. The card isn't in anything consistently. It isn't breaking standard. Werewolves are not tier 1, and still, despite all of that, her price hasn't budged in over a month in any meaningful capacity. Arlene Court is around $9 to $10 right now, and that's where she's gonna stay. She has a lot of raw power, and that's why she'll stay here, but make no mistake. If something comes in Kaladesh or someone finds a way to make her useful in standard, that price is gonna freak out. Do not wait any longer to get her. Even if she goes down another $1, is that really worth the risk? With Emrakul clearly making her presence known, believe it or not, summary dismissal could be the best answer for her. To essentially counter her and stop the Mindslaver ability is huge. While this isn't going to be a place in the main deck of any strategy ever, I could see a few main or sideboard copies being important if these Emrakul decks stick around. And at a whopping 90 cents, it doesn't seem like too big of an investment simply to cover your bases. One card that I've been championing for a while now, and I think might be its time to shine, is Matter Reshaper. With Emerge becoming a thing, Andrew Brown thought Matter Reshaper was a great inclusion in his 8th place Pro Tour deck, and I do too. The thing screens Emerge fodder. It's like it was designed for it, for goodness sake. The card has inched up a little bit in price, but there are still plenty of copies to grab under $4, which I believe is more than fair for the card's power. Not only are you getting a 3-2 that can duel just fine, it also replaces itself in addition to cheapening Emerge by a significant amount. The Reshaper does a lot for very, very little. Of all the Emerge cards we saw last weekend, Distended Mindbender certainly was not the star of the show, but I have high hopes for it. Teamer Emerge doesn't run black, so the Mindbender couldn't have been played there anyways, but there were already Emerge variants coming out that run black and therefore run the Mindbender. The disruption on the card is fantastic, hand attacking someone for 2 spells. Truly devastating to a lot of strategies, including Delirium variants, any control deck, and especially other Emerge decks. Again, not saying that the card is going to be better than Elder Deep Fiend, but I don't think $250 is a fair price. I could easily see this being a $4 to $5 card. The last card I want to mention is Thing in the Ice. Hyped beyond all reason when it was first released, the card has been dropping ever since, settling around $5. I think this is the perfect time to get copies if you need them. As you saw in our last video, Thing in the Ice is making a comeback, and I think that deck is hilarious. Even if that deck doesn't make waves, we're going to Kaladesh, full of Thopters. Where there are Thopters, there are burn spells. It's friggin' Kaladesh. I don't think we've seen the last of Thing in the Ice, and $5 seems like a decent floor. I'd get them if you need them. There are obviously a ton more cards that have gone up in value, down in value, and that you should probably pick up right now, but if I talked about literally all of them, we'd be here forever. Regardless, which cards have you been eyeing? If there are any cards you think I should have mentioned that I didn't, please leave them below. How about your fellow viewers? We're all here to try and play Magic without going broke, so be sure to let us know what you're looking for. As always, subscribe for the latest and most reliable Magic the Gathering information you could ever need. This is the Manosaurus, I'm Wedge, thanks for watching, we'll see you next time.
Wow.